So I've worked for Apple twice. The first time was from 83 to 87. I was Apple's second software evangelist. So there was basically, there was Jesus Christ, and then there was a 2,000-year gap, and then there was a software evangelist at Macintosh, and then I was the second software evangelist at Macintosh. I left Apple to start companies, and then I came back. I came back as chief evangelist, and I came back because I love the company so much and I wanted to help it. And what I had to do was preserve the Macintosh cult, because back in 1995, 6, 7, that's the day when every article about Apple started with the beleaguered Cupertino company. I thought beleaguered Cupertino company was now our tagline. And so my efforts were to push out good news about Apple, because everything was bad news. And I started a list server called Evangelist. I thought that was very clever. And it only put out good news about Apple. And, that was my effort. It was a very rewarding effort. I mean, not financially, because like a dumbass, I quit. But in terms of, establishing my brand and reputation, that was a very good thing I did, although that's not why I did it.
Would you do something differently?
First of all, you got that number wrong. It's way more than a couple $1 million, maybe a couple $100 million. And you know what? 200 million here, 200 million there adds up to real money after a while, right? So, yeah, I guess, so listen, I quit Apple twice. And a few years after that confrontation with Steve, he offered me another job and I turned that down. So really, I kind of declined Apple 3 times. And if I had stayed the whole time, I probably would have made hundreds of millions of dollars. On the other hand, and this may be a rationalization, that I would not have nearly a rich a life as I've had with, starting companies, failing, succeeding. I would have never, Apple would have never let me go on the board of trustees of Wikipedia. Apple would not have let me become a Mercedes-Benz brand ambassador. Apple would not have let me become a podcaster. I mean, Mark Rober left Apple because he had more followers on YouTube than the Apple account, right? And, Apple PR just that makes their head explode. Like, my God, this one geeky engineer, he has more followers than we do. Like, oh my God, what if he says something wrong? And, Apple is a little paranoid that way. So all of these things would not have happened. So, I think if I had stayed at Apple, I would be much richer, but I would also be a total asshole. I mean, it would just have corrupted me. At least that's my rationalization.
So here, in this case, the bridges you burned really did lit the way. And looking back on it, also in the aspect of thinking remarkable, you regret.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Listen, I wrote 16 books in that time frame. Man. Hard to imagine that Apple would have let me write 16 books. I mean, if you think about it, have you ever gone to a conference, ever, like literally ever, have you gone to a conference and an Apple exec besides Tim Cook spoke? Never, right? Never. You never see anybody, because it's so tightly controlled by Apple. Their whole external persona. So, guy would not have a writing career, guy would not have a podcasting career, or guy would not have a public speaking career. As I said, I would just be a rich asshole. There are really fundamentally 2 kinds of assholes. So one asshole is an ego-driven asshole, and it's all about me, and it's my self-glorification, and the company exists because of me, and it exists to glorify me. And there's another kind of asshole that has a mission, and Steve Jobs is the mission-driven asshole. And the mission-driven asshole is not about glorification of Steve Jobs. The mission-driven asshole is, I'm on a mission to make the best computer ever. And that's the kind of asshole that Steve Jobs was. So if you got in the way of his quest to make the best computer, he would run you over. He would run you over. He would back up and run you over again just to make sure you're out of the way. And I gotta say that, when I say it this way, it sounds like it's very harsh. Well, it was harsh. And it sounds like you would not want to work for him, but I loved working for him. I would not be where I am were it not for Steve Jobs. So I'm living proof that fear can work as a very good HR technique, but we won't go down that path. And so, the mission-driven asshole is a very powerful thing. Now, the problem with this is that I think when many people look at Steve Jobs as an example, they have a difficult time separating correlation and causation. So you look at Steve Jobs and you say, oh, he wears a black mock turtleneck. He wears New Balance running shoes. He wears, 501 Levi's. He drives a black Mercedes, but he doesn't get it licensed because he doesn't like license plates. And he parks in the handicap spot and he drives in the carpool lane, by himself. So you go out and you buy your black mock turtleneck, you buy your New Balance, you buy your jeans, you buy a Mercedes, you don't license it, you park in the handicap slot, and you think, oh my God, I am the next Steve Jobs. Well, basically, you're just an asshole. So the hard part is the mission-driven part of it. The hard part is the visionary. The hard part is figuring out what a computer should be, what an iPod, iPad, what a retail experience should be. The hard part is not wearing the black mock turtleneck and being an asshole. So now, I'm going to offer you a data point of someone who disproves the concept that you have to be an asshole to succeed. And I would offer Melanie Perkins, the CEO and founder of Canva. She's the antithesis of an asshole, and she has built a fantastic company. So I don't think that, being an asshole is sufficient nor necessary to be successful.